Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KB. We are here to do a PLE reactions video, this time on Survivor Series, which took place on November 29th, 2025, at Petco Park in San Diego, California. We kick off the show with the women's War Games match, which of course features Charlotte, Alexa, Rhea, Io, and AJ Lee, which will be the face team going up against Asuka, Kairi, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, and Becky Lynch on the heel side. So, KP had a lot of discussions going into this PLE about Charlotte. Charlotte seemed to be the underlying issue, at least on the face side, whereas the heels kind of took pretty big momentum going into Survivor Series, with the exception of Charlotte getting the advantage for the face side. The heels dominated most of the build for this, but didn't really see that come into play here. You could argue the opposite. The faces were kind of thriving for this entire contest. What did you make of this event, and do you feel like the right women's team won? And what was your overall rating for this one?
Yeah, this women's War Games match had a very similar feel to pretty much any of the women's War Games matches we've had over the past number of years. It's always a case of the heels doing kind of well in the the build up to the event, and then once we get to the match itself, we see the faces just obviously come together and get the job done, and ultimately come out on the winning side. And that had a very same feel to this one as well. Didn't really differ from the mold that we've sort of that we've meshed together over the past number of years. And I think you summed it up quite well. There was a little bit of Charlotte, maybe not quite being 100% in the right mentality compared to that of the rest of the team going into the contest. But they sort of seemingly just threw that away very quickly. And as you said, they were all on the same page ticking here and they picked up the victory. So, yeah, I don't know what exactly was the point in doing that whole thing with Charlotte if they were literally just going to forget about it immediately, whether it was something that they thought about, they tried it, and they weren't particularly happy with the immediate results. I don't know. But yeah, coming off the back of it, it seemed like it was all a bit of nothing, really. It didn't really mean too much. But in terms of the match itself, it was fine. There wasn't anything like incredibly wrong with it, but it wasn't anything incredibly special either. I think it had your general sort of check marks for a standard women's War Games match. It had your Io Sky trash can jump off the top of the structure, which is always a fun moment. I loved it. She did a swanton this time, so it's something a little bit different as well. And it's always fun to watch when that does take place. We saw some nice communication between a lot of the women in this one. Some nice tandem offense and things, individual spots here and there, uses of weapons and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it had pretty much all the the foundations for a decent War Games match, but didn't have anything that made it exceptional or spectacular. So, yeah, it is what it is. Becky Lynch taps out eventually to AJ Lee via the Black Widow, and that obviously continues that sort of feud between the two of those ladies, and that we'll probably see the next of that progression, starting from Monday on Raw. So, yeah, there are things to take away from this one, but it wasn't anything, that I'm probably going to go back and watch anytime soon. So yeah, just a standard War Games match for the women's team. And I don't think the heels have won a single time when the women have been showcased inside War Games on the main roster. And obviously that continues from here with the faces winning once again. So whether I think the right team won or not, I think probably on paper it was the right decision to have the women's face team win, which is fair enough. I don't mind that. But at the end of the day, they do not want to have the heel women's sides win inside War Games. There must be a reason for that. And maybe it's just the stars aligning always for the faces to get the win, and it's the right result at the time. I don't know. But yeah, in this sense, it was a fine match. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, it was good, but it wasn't anything spectacular or special. So what did you make of this one, Nick? Just generally speaking, the flow of it, the right outcome, this, that, and the other. Who started off, whatever. You think that the order was fine? I thought maybe it was a little bit illogical at times, personally speaking. But yeah, it was fine. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I don't think they mentioned it to in the build at all, and that was the kind of the removal of the cages, the shark cages, I think they call them, that they typically wait in. Just did the entrances this time, but looking at the kind of entrance layout, I'm not sure how they would have I'm sure they could have made it work, but I thought that was a bit of a letdown. I always like kind of the drama that takes place in those, but regardless, I suppose it doesn't take too much from the actual match. Just kind of entertainment that kind of took place before. So was a bit disappointed in that. But regardless, for the match itself, yeah, kind of similar to what we said in the traditional 5v5 Survivor Series match that took place on SmackDown. I don't feel like anyone really came out of here looking better or worse. Everyone's just kind of there. As you said, they kind of hit their moments. You know, when you bring down your own branded trash can lid and the actual trash can has your name on it, um, you know, the writing's on the wall there for sure. Um, yeah, it was cool to see AJ Lee in a War Games match. Obviously, since she's been back, now she can say that she's partaken in one. So that was a cool moment. Um, Charlotte's gear being dedicated towards the little girl with cancer. That was a nice moment as well. And then Rhea Ripley's kind of Terrifier uh, inspired ring gear. I thought that was cool as well. But yeah, as for the actual match, it just felt like it wasn't really something special per se. The ending with Becky kind of taking everyone's finisher and then getting finished off with the Black Widow, and we can hopefully finally continue that rivalry with them. Felt like that one got put on hold there for a while. So yeah, it was fun. It just wasn't anything groundbreaking. So unfortunately, so kind of the fears we had going into this coming true, and that was the build wasn't great, but maybe the match will be better. And this one, kind of a theme for the night, the match kind of matched the build. So take that for what it was. I guess one a 6 out of 10. A tad lower than yours, but again, just didn't bring me anything super special. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. So it's kind of in the middle there. So that's my final rating there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the next match and what I would call the match of the night. This has Dominik Mysterio with Roxanne and Raquel of the Judgment Day going up against John Cena, defending his Intercontinental Championship. And I do owe you an apology, KP, because on the predictions, I did mention something about you kind of not calling. Saturday Night Main Event a PLE, and I thought at the time you were just putting a dig towards that event, but it did appear, and perhaps I just missed it, that they are calling this one his last PLE. So I guess suppose the difference in actual paid and not paid events, I guess, so it does make sense. But just a quick apology there. But as for the actual match, yeah, John Cena has his hands full here, going up against the entirety of the Judgment Day essentially, and then a returning Liv Morgan. So this one has a little bit of everything. And yeah, KP, what'd you make of this one? Did the right person win here? And what was your rating?
Well, no. First and foremost, no problem about the, the confusion with the PLEs and stuff. Yeah, you didn't need to apologize. That's fine. I think just generally speaking, the Saturday's Main events, I think they, yeah, like you said, they're not a premium event, so I think that's why they don't really fall under that category. But yeah, John Cena with his last appearance here, I was hoping it would be something to remember, and I think at the end of the day, we will remember this one, which is amazing, which is great. And you said it was probably your match of the night. I would say it was definitely my match of the night, 100%. I would agree with that one tenfold. And I really liked it. I thought it was good. I think everything just clicked and it worked. But there was a nice dynamic to it. It flowed really well. And there were some really cool moments throughout the matchup. We have a little bit of back and forth between Cena and Dom to start with. Cena sort of like taking control. We spill to the outside. And yeah, we see Dom take a bit of a nasty looking bump, and I genuinely thought that that was a botch, and it was it was done just completely by accident, and that it was just an unfortunate coming together from the two men. It's sort of Dom Mysterio going for a Hurricane Rana off of the barricade onto John Cena, and John Cena sort of catches him and power bombs him. But Dom really falls on at the back of his neck. It's quite a nasty spill, quite a nasty landing, and it worked me, to be fair. I thought it was a bit of an injury at first, and it was a bit of a botch. But yeah, then it sort of came to play that actually, wait, hold on a minute, this probably won't be something, because we then see Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez coming into the match, coming into the ring, and Raquel hits a Tahana bomb on John Cena, and then Roxy hits a Pop Rocks as well. So yeah, then that sees Dom Mysterio come back in. He hits a 619 onto John Cena, goes for the frog splash, and then tries to go for the victory by pinning Cena. But the referee uses just plain common sense and says, "No, I'm not counting this. You are meant to be injured. What the hell's going on?" Like, literally just use his brain. It was quite nice to see, actually, quite refreshing. And then we see Roxy and Raquel get banished from ringside and sent to the back, which was just a really cool spot. I like that. I love that whole thing. So yeah, then we see the match sort of going along, and we have the referee taken out at one point via coming together. and we see Dominik Mysterio's Judgment Day stablemates, Finn Balor and JD McDonough. They come on down to support Dom, but they actually get dealt with by Cena pretty swiftly. McDonough goes for a moonsault and doesn't catch it because Cena gets the knees up. Finn Balor goes for a coup de grace, misses it, and then John Cena gets them both into the corner and hits a double attitude adjustment, effectively removing them from the situation. The match continues. We have a little bit of back and forth between Cena and Dom. And before too long, we then see the return of Liv Morgan coming on down. And just when we thought all the shenanigans were, were done and dusted, Liv goes face to face in the ring with Dominik Mysterio, and Liv slaps Dom. So then we're thinking, wait, what? Why is Liv turning on Dom? Doesn't really make any sense. What's going on here? And then Liv literally leaps into the grasp of John Cena, legs wrapped around him, sort of like typical how she does things with Dominik Mysterio a lot of the time. And Cena's just there, like, what's going on here then? He doesn't really know what to make of it all. There's a really cinematic moment where we have the camera pan to Liv Morgan's face. Obviously, the back of John Cena's head can be seen as well. And Liv has this really demonic sort of like change in her in her demeanor. And it makes for a really cool moment because, Liv gets off of John Cena, gives him a low blow, and that's when the wheels really fall off for John Cena's Intercontinental Championship run, because after a smash to the face from the Intercontinental Championship and then a 619 and a frog splash, Dominik Mysterio is once again your Intercontinental Champion. So that's generally just sort of how the match flowed along here, but it was really, really well done. It had some unique moments in it. It had some ways of just throwing us off as viewers, and I was definitely sent with the whole injury thing, like I said a moment ago. And I thought just everything about it just worked, and it was just nicely done. It just all fit together really, really well. And there were so many elements to it that just made it quite a memorable last PLE match for John Cena. And now we go into Dom's second run with the Intercontinental Championship. I do hope it's a bit better than his first, because I do think that at first his reign started off really well, but then it sort of like stagnated and sort of got lost in the shuffle a little bit. So hopefully we don't have that happen again. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Dom can do with the title from here on out. But really, really fun match. Really enjoyed it for what it was worth. I gave it a 9 out of 10, and definitely my match of the night for sure. Just really, really well done across the board. What did you make of this one, Nick? Just generally speaking, how everything flowed, the individual moments, the drama, the end result. How did you rate Cena's last ever PLE contest?
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points. I think if I were to see this kind of script on paper, I would immediately say I'm not going to like this match, especially given the talent involved. I'm not the biggest Dom or Cena fan when it comes to their in ring work, but everything about this match did work. From the injury angle, and the way it was sold, that it was exactly like the Penta, kind of going for our hearts there, with him being out seemingly for a while. I think playing off that, Raquel giving it to Hada Bomb, and then a Pop Rocks to John Cena. That was amazing. JD's moonsault, which is a very underrated moonsault, by the way. If I haven't said that already, I just wanted to get that out there. He has a special way about landing that ever so nicely. And then the double AA, that was great as well. Liv coming back, kind of giving her John Cena impression. That was kind of the same face he made when he turned on Cody not that long ago. It kind of got similar vibes to that. Of course, then with the low blow to reunite Liv and Dom, and get once again his Intercontinental Championship back to him. And I kind of made the case that I didn't really think Dom needed to win here, but now having seen it on played out the way it has, I like it the way it's been done now on the Saturday Night Main Event between John Cena, whomever his opponent ends up being. Now it's not super obvious that he's going to lose. Now he still can win, and it won't be a big deal. So I think I do like this decision with WWE is taking here, and of course, nice to see Liv back. Welcome back, and really looking forward to the Judgment Day and all of the possibilities that could go on there that we've been seemingly waiting on for what feels like a long, long time. So for this one, I did get a rating also of 9 out of 10. Just a ton of fun and just the perfect blend of drama and in-ring action. So a bittersweet moment, especially when John kind of ran his hand along the LED board. It got me. It got me. We got a couple more weeks of them, but we'll see. We'll see how we can deal with that in the meantime. And of course, that reactions video to Saturday Night Main Event could be an emotional one. But without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to the next match, which has the recently turned heel Nikki Bella going up against Stephanie Vaquer, defending her Women's World Championship. KP, I think we both were pretty confident in the fact that Stephanie should win. However, I could not kick this weird feeling that Nikki Bella, having just turned heel, was going to have something up her sleeve. That was not the case. Pretty straightforward match here. What'd you make of it? Do you feel like the right person won? I have a feeling you did, but what was your rating and overall thoughts on this one?
Well, firstly, I'll just say I'm absolutely relieved that Nikki Bella didn't have anything, super special up her sleeve. Yeah, very happy with the result here. Obviously, the right person won, in my opinion. And yeah, this one was just fine. It did what it needed to do. And there was nothing else really to it. Stephanie Vaquer winning is obviously the right result for me personally. Just wanting, her reign to continue. She's not ready to to lose that title just yet. So yeah, we have obviously a bit of a back and forth sort of feud here between herself and Nikki. Does that come to a head here? I'd like to think it probably will do. I don't really see the point in continuing this one from here on out. But the match itself, actually, to be fair, credit to Nikki Bella. When we spoke about Nikki and Becky's match earlier in the year, I think we were both very, very critical, saying how she looked out of place. She didn't deliver a performance that was merited an opportunity, and I think in this match she looked head and shoulders above what she delivered against Becky Lynch. So I guess that's something. There's obviously a bit of improvement there. Maybe it's just she was a little bit too rusty at that particular point, but now she's had a few matches here and there. She's got a little bit more into it. This one was a lot better than that one previously in the year, so we can take that as a positive for sure. I just want to quickly put that out there. But yeah, in terms of the match itself, it was okay. It was fine. Like, it wasn't the best match you'll see on a PLE. It wasn't the worst match you'll see on a PLE. It was just somewhere in the middle. It was okay. It was fine. And just generally how everything went down, it was pretty standard for the most part. Nikki Bella controlled a large part of it, in the earlier stages, sort of like, just getting on top and asserting her asserting her sort of aggression onto Stephanie Vaquer. And then, yeah, she would find ways to fight back and stuff. Really nicely done. Just going back and forward with Nikki Bella. And yeah, just making for a pretty compelling match in the middle stages. And then Stephanie takes over a little bit towards the end. We see a devil's kiss on the announce table and rolls her back into the ring, hits the devil kiss once more, and then follows up with a corkscrew moonsault in order to get the victory here and to retain her Women's World Championship. So yeah, I don't really have anything too much more to say about it, but it was fine for what it was. It wasn't anything incredible. It wasn't bad by any means necessary. But it just wasn't anything super special, which is the main thing I got to take away from this one. It's a title defense for Stephanie Vaquer. She continues her run. She continues her reign. And we now, hopefully, in my opinion, build towards whatever's going to be happening next. And that is something new. I think that is the way to go. So, yeah, a successful defense for Steph. A good day out for her. And Nikki showing signs of improvement from earlier in the year. I think there are positives to take from this one. So, whatever that's worth. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think that's pretty fair from my point of view. It was okay. It was fine. But didn't set the world alight. What did you make of this one, Nick, in terms of, Steph winning? Obviously, we were both definitely calling for that to happen. Obviously, it did take place. But then just sort of Nikki Bella's performance, what did you make of that, from your personal point of view? And just, generally how you thought the match went down?
So yeah, first and foremost, elated that Stephanie Vaquer did get the win here. Listeners, off air, I was genuinely expressing my concerns to KP. Yes, we still talk about wrestling even after we're done recording here. But yeah, I was genuinely concerned that Nikki was going to find a way to either not allow Stephanie to win here or somehow get the win herself. So I was very worried about that. So I did sleep good last night, knowing that Vaquer was still our champion. But yeah, you bring up a good point about Nikki Bella. Leagues above our match with Becky, and Becky's kind of one of those very consistent performers in that it is very hard to have a bad match with her. But Nikki was able to pull that feat off, for worse, I guess. I can't remember our rating for that match, but I want to say it was definitely below 5. I think I'm wanting to say it was like 3 or 4 range. So this one being immensely better, as you kind of alluded to, I give this one a 6 out of 10. Just a couple of kind of issues with it, after bragging on Nikki. I think, and this may be a bit of a hot take, but the Devil's Kiss, I think, is becoming a moment in Stephanie Vaquer's matches that's kind of taking away from her wrestling abilities because of how much how over Devil's Kiss is. It feels like it becomes the main highlight of the match when Vaquer is capable of doing much more and much, much better things. And so, for whatever reason, I do feel like that is being a bit overbooked, I guess, is my point there. Because it was used twice here, and in the grand scheme of things, doesn't come off as super effective. And it was kind of similar, like the people's elbow or the five knuckle shuffle. It's there for more entertainment. And I understand that. I just feel like Vaquer, it does kind of take away a bit from our matches because it's so focused on. But perhaps another conversation for another day. But with that, I feel like the rest of the match kind of just was kind of there, with the build being, or not much there. I feel like this kind of matched that, maybe slightly better than the build. But in terms of, like, lighting the world on fire, it definitely didn't do that. So, but again, like we said, definitely better than Nikki's last match. And as you said, hopefully Vaquer moving on here, to something with a little more substance. Then we get into the main event, which does have Jimmy and Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes going up against Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker, and more. Of course, Paul Heyman there in the ring as well. Similar to the women's side, we kind of felt like the build for this was, definitely wasn't as good as the women's. Uh, a little better than the Vaquer Nikki Bella match. KP, what did you make of this one? There are some interesting talking points in this one. Obviously, I think the highlight and the biggest question mark being the masked figure. So curious to get your thoughts on how all of this unfolded. Did the right team win? And of course, your overall rating for the main event of Survivor Series.
Yeah, I think just generally speaking, the vibe going into War Games for me for both matches was maybe a little bit, I don't know, not quite there. I wasn't really looking for as forward to it as much as maybe like a lot of other people were. There's a lot of big names in the contest, sure, that's fine. But for me personally, when War Games first was introduced to the main roster, it was meant to be sort of like taken for a point of like it was to enhance storylines, and I think you can take bits from this one that are enhanced, but for the most part, I don't think that's really the case. I think the two main points are here are you talk about the very end of the matchup. So let me sort of set the scene here. So we got the match taking place. You see the start of the contest, where Bron Breakker and CM Punk are the two legal men. Already, I'm surprised about this because CM Punk, isn't he's not the he hasn't got the most stamina. Let's put it that way. In the later stages of his career, in his twilight years, I guess you could say. And I think naturally, I would have expected him to have come in a bit later on in the contest. No real dig at him, just generally just speaking, just how I sort of see the situation. And we see him go face to face with Bron Breakker, one of the most physical, performers in this matchup, really, just generally speaking. And yeah, it's quite the interesting start. And these two are literally going at it until the very end of the matchup as well, which is something I'll get into in a minute. But yeah, the matchup itself is decent enough. We have some moments here and there. We see the heels take advantage at one point, and then we get Jey Uso coming on in, and he just runs riot. And then, annoyingly, I definitely see it as annoyance. I'm sure you probably might do as well, Nick. We see actually one point where Jey Uso literally stops the entire contest because everyone's been taken out, and he starts rolling back his entrance, and he starts yeeting on top of the war game structure. For me, just makes a mockery of war games. Absolute mockery of it. It's meant to be, a vicious sort of place where people can absolutely just go to war, and he's literally up there like a prat, yeeting away mid contest with everybody now apparently down and out for a large period of time. So yeah, for me, took a bit of the the just the general vibe of the contest away from it. It's not meant for that kind of thing. It's meant to literally have these guys just going all out for however long the contest is going to last. So yeah, I don't know. Wasn't particularly too happy with that one. Maybe a little bit of bias coming in there, for my dislike towards Jey Uso, but I still can't hide my displeasure for that particular segment and moment. Yeah, the match goes in. Everyone's in now. We see Roman Reigns being involved with stuff on the outside of the ring during his entrance, and that sort of like goes into the contest. The intensity continues going into it, and then towards the end, like you already mentioned here, probably the biggest talking point of the contest, we see Punk looking to basically, just end the contest. Really, here's a GTS on Logan Paul, and he's going to go for the pin. I think it's broken up by Bron Breakker, literally as we see this masked figure, like hooded figure, just appear climbing up the wargame structure. And may I say, this guy is quick on his feet. Whoever this is, very very fast climbing the structure, getting into the structure. He immediately hits Punk with a super kick and then goes for the stomp on Punk, laying him out. And obviously, you see a stomp, you think of Seth Rollins. I think that's naturally how everyone sort of plays that into it. And obviously, with Seth being injured, we've already seen a ruse from Seth Rollins this year. So, naturally speaking, this is very, very cleverly done. I actually quite like this part. This is a really well placed moment here, and I think whoever it is, in the hoodie, is just having a little bit of fun with making people think, oh, it could be Seth Rollins. Do people actually believe it is? For the most part, they probably do not, and they're rightful to not believe that. We're not going to get hit twice by a Seth Rollins ruse in the same year, and especially considering the situation and circumstances this time, it makes even less sense than the time before. So, we can put that to bed. But whoever it is very light on their feet, very quick, very agile, and is definitely having a bit of fun here at Seth Rollins' expense, which is quite interesting to see. But yeah, hits that stomp on CM Punk. Bron Breakker, he gets ready to go. He hits a spear on Punk straight afterwards, and then he pins him as well. So Bron Breakker with a pin on the world champion, which is very apt because we've seen Paul Heyman and Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed have discussions about possibly going for the world title, but Heyman sort of holding Bron and Bronson back and saying, we'll bide our time, we'll wait for the moment. You guys gotta wait around for the right chance. And maybe now is the right chance. You get a pin over the world champion. You've got a bit of credibility there that you are a credible threat for that title. So maybe now we see Bron Breakker really get that position. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But it was a very big moment, in my opinion, as well. And obviously that sees the team of the heels and the Vision getting the victory here in this contest. So, in terms of the match itself, though, I did think it was kind of bang average for the most part. Had a bit of a feel to the women's WarGames contest as well. I didn't think it was really a step up from that one either, but I didn't think it was really a step down from it as well. I thought it was just sort of there and there. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, which is the exact same rating I gave it with the women's one. I liked the moment at the end, but besides that, it just had a bit of a up and down feel, kind of just stagnated towards the end and just did what it needed to do to get to that particular point. There wasn't really anything too special to note besides those ending sequences, which I really did like. I'm quite fond of what happened towards the end. So yeah, 7.5. It was okay. It was fine. But in terms of storytelling and like moments, going that we can take forward from this one, I don't see a whole lot of that. There's a little bit here and there. Like Cody and Punk had a little bit of a thing with Roman at the end. I thought it was a little bit underwhelming. It was like we're not teaming anymore or something Roman Reigns said to Cody. Like, remember that? I don't know. It just felt like a bit of a cop out sort of ending type thing, and I was left maybe wanting a little bit more from that exchange. But yeah, I guess it is what it is. You can only get so much, and we didn't really get too much from that particular point. But yeah, it is what it is. It's fine. 7.5. We'll go with that. Nick, what did you make of the men's war games comparatively speaking to the women's one? What did you think? Which one did you think was better? And what did you make of that hooded man's appearance at the end there? Possibly playing a little bit of mind games there towards Seth freaking Rollins.
Yeah, I thought this one kind of did more than the women's. I feel like walking away from this one, I have a lot more questions and you know the storytelling is more so there. Whereas with the women's, I just felt like it was kind of there. That was that. Most of which probably won't be brought up again. Whereas on the men's side, you have the hooded figure, obviously, first and foremost, but making itself, and toying with our emotions and going with a Seth Rollins move. Obviously, that's something. You have Bron Breakker getting the win, making his case for CM Punk's title, as you've already mentioned as well. You have the Drew and Cody stuff kind of going there. The Vision, just in general, the Vision team, just felt like they dominated most of this match. Outside of the Roman burst when he came in, it felt like that was kind of doing great things for the heel team. And so I just felt like it accomplished something, whereas the women's one I just feel like didn't really do much of anything, especially in the grand scheme of things. So with all that being said, yeah, I feel like this one went really well. And then of course you alluded to the post match stuff, which obviously highlighted the Roman kind of going face to face with both CM Punk and Cody, shaking hands with Punk, but then not so nicely dealing with Cody. Possibly setting up that third Cody Roman match. Maybe the dynamics will change on that one. That could be entertaining. But of course, Drew McIntyre, clearly not done with Cody either. So I think you just walk away from this one with a lot more of storytelling abilities. Bronson Reed looked pretty dynamic here in this one as well, handing out tsunamis for free. What that was a fun bit as well, and Logan Paul, of course, continuing to impress. So yeah, I really like. I think just the right team, obviously winning here with the heel team, with the face team just having too much turmoil, excuse me, going on with them. So yeah, I think the right team here won. And I like this one quite a bit better than the women's. Actually, I give this one an 8 out of 10. It was more entertaining, and I will remember this one much longer than I will the women's side. So with that, Survivor Series War Games in the books. KP, give us your high and low points of Survivor Series, and of course your overall rating and kind of lasting impressions you have for this year.
I think it's a show with definitely some ups and downs. I think that definitely the biggest up will be John Cena and Dominik Mysterio's Intercontinental Championship match was by far the match of the night in my opinion, and just delivered on so many different scales. I think it just had a lot of drama and just made for a really compelling contest, back and forth, big moments. So yeah, really enjoyed that for what it was worth. Everything else though maybe fell a little bit flat in some departments and regards, especially the the War Games matches. In my opinion, I'm a massive fan of War Games generally speaking. I love the match concept. I think it's brilliant when done right. I think they're unbelievable. But I think that in just the previous years, I do get a feeling that a lot of stuff is more thrown together now, and they try and just stack the deck up a little bit too much, and they sort of put star power in at the expense of storytelling, which for me is what War Games was brought in for. That's what we were all promised to begin with, and I feel like now there isn't really sort of much to that anymore, especially on the women's side. There doesn't really tend to be too much regarding that. And then the men's side, I feel like, yeah, they just threw so many big names in there that for me personally, there's not enough to come out from it. Like, I don't think uh, the cost of putting those big names in, you don't get the benefits, in my opinion, from what's coming out from that. A little bit here and there, sure. I'm not going to say it's completely null, but I will say that, for what is there, we should be getting more, in my opinion. No one has to agree with that. That's just how I view it, and that is what it is in my perspective. But yeah, I think this was an okay show. It was fine. I gave it a 7 out of 10, a 7.5 out of 10 from the average of my matches put together. But yeah, I don't know. It left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I don't really think anything special comes from this show. There are hints and stuff going forward in the future, which is fine. But yeah, I think my most interesting things are just purely for the fact that Dom gets the Intercontinental Championship back after John Cena's last ever PLE contest, in what was a really good matchup. And then we also got that mystery over who that hooded individual was that got involved in the men's War Games match. So yeah, they're my biggest talking points. But besides that, I'm not really taking anything else from this one that's a big plus for me, speaking personally. But yeah, 7.5. What did you make of the show overall, Nick? Highs and lows, match of the night, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, what was your take on Survivor Series War Games for 2025?
Yeah, so kind of what we started off the reaction video with, and kind of what we hit the predictions video with, was our expectations for this were lower, and I think that ends up paying off. As we said it would, because walking here with those lower expectations. It wasn't a terrible show, but wasn't an amazing outstanding show either. So I think you kind of it basically just hit our expectations, is the long-winded way of saying what I'm trying to get out there. The highlight for me absolutely being Dominik Mysterio and John Cena. Thought that was just a ton of fun, and the low point being probably the Nikki Bella Vaquer. I think Vaquer is just better, capable of much better things. So hopefully she will get able to be to move on from that, and I think we'll call it a day. Yeah, I feel like the men's War Games match was better than the women's, but both of them, as you alluded to, definitely lack the build. And I think the personal point of these War Games matches is, to settle a long standing feud. And I feel like the men's one did that a little bit more than the women's, but still, as you kind of alluded to, a lot of this was just kind of big names thrown together. And especially on the women's side, we walk away with almost nothing to take for it. So I think that kind of defeats the whole purpose. I've never been a huge Survivor Series guy. Definitely my least favorite of the big four. Um, by quite a bit. So, it is what it is. I think we can do better, especially on the women's side. I think both the women's side lack, and I think you could say that in the big picture too. A lot of the women's titles and feuds, with few exceptions, lack a lot of stories. So I think we can definitely start hitting some better stories on the women's side. The women's side, I always thought put out some really good stories, and lately they just have not been getting the time of day seemingly. So for whatever that's worth, I think that is an opportunity for improvement. And yeah, walking away with Survivor Series, my rating for this one is a 7 out of 10. Not terrible, not great. Just for a big four pay per view, we expect some bigger and better things. I think that's all fair to say. So, with that, do you agree with our ratings, or do you have a difference in opinion? Regardless, please let us know in the comments below. Let us know your favorite moment of Survivor Series this year and what you're looking forward to most now that we're turning the page and moving on to what a lot of people in the IWC call the dead period of the year. Basically now into the Royal Rumble is kind of the next big thing. But this year is a little different in that we have that Saturday night main event coming up here in just a couple of weeks. John Cena's last appearance. So have that to look forward to at least. But will be very interesting to see what we hit in the meantime. Of course, over here at The Push, we are continuing to work on our weekly recaps. In addition to that, we are working on a WrestleMania series that we are pumping out, usually about a video per week. And then, of course, we have NXT Deadline to look forward to this upcoming weekend as well. So we'll have a predictions and reactions video there. So, with that, this has been our Survivor Series recap, and this has been The Push with Nick and KP. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.